Fix errors, waste, and issues in a couple of clicks. Get alerted whenever you're off track. Sign up at trueclicks.com.
Wix Studio, the platform for agencies and enterprises to manage clients and projects with max efficiency, sharing Wix's SEO tech to help you drive growth.
Well, this is cozy. Thank you, James, for the intro, and thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm going to talk today about how to craft ideas that resonate globally. So, how many of you how to do ideation every day? There's not a lot of people, a few shy hands, right? So we know that coming up with ideas is hard, but coming up with ideas that work and can be adapted to different markets is, well, harder. We know that. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Lau, but not like this. Let me tell you a story. When I moved to the UK, I actually shortened my name to not be called Laura all the time. That didn't go well for me, as you can see there, because that is how my partner's mum writes my name. But I guess mums are always right, so that's absolutely fine. But in all seriousness, I'm Lau Miguez. I'm a freelance international digital PR. I love the stories that genuinely sparkle in the Spanish media, and I'm a total sucker for ideation. That's what we are going to talk about today. But before, let me tell you a little bit of the markets that I've been working in. So I've worked in these different markets. Right now I'm working in Latin America, Spain, and the UK. And these are some of my international media placements as well. So let's get into it. What do we need to consider when we are ideating for different markets? So when we are ideating campaigns for different audiences, understanding those cultural differences is crucial. So we need to understand the media landscape, understand the culture, and understand the audience as well. And once we have all that, we need to infuse that into the message, right? So let's start with understanding the media landscape or reading the room. The reason I say reading the room is because distributing campaigns to a country that you have no idea about, that you've never read the news, you've never actually engaged with the media landscape, is like walking into a room full of people like you here now, not knowing any of you, you're having a conversation and crack a joke. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know who you are. So you might be talking about something really serious and I have no idea. That's not going to land well. And that is the same thing as distributing campaigns into a country that you don't know. He didn't read the room, and I'm not sure if who knows who he is. Okay, there's a few people that knows who he is. For those who doesn't, so he was the president of the Spanish Football Association. And in the final of the Women's World Cup, he decided to celebrate a victory in a really inappropriate way, kissing one of the players without her consent. That's not what we are here to talk about, because we have all day. What we are going to talk about is how different media covered this news, because it was quite relevant in different countries. We've got the UK here, so there's a lot going on here, first of all. But the first thing we can see is that obviously it's quite a bold layout and it's a very kind of provocative headline. Whereas if we go to Spain and we've got the translation there, it's just very factual, very clean. They're just saying, Luis Rubiales' mum goes on a hunger strike to defend her son. So these are the differences here. We can see that the UK has a more sensationalist and informal tone, whereas Spain is more factual and straightforward. The UK is looking kind of like to entertain a little bit, whereas Spain, again, is quite factual. UK is provocative. If you don't agree with what they are saying, there's going to get a reaction of you. Whereas, again, in Spain, you're just reading a really factual, straightforward, neutral headline. And obviously, we can see a bold layout. There's quite a lot of things going on, whereas Spain is more clean. So this is just a very specific example of the differences in between two countries. But what does this mean? It means that diving into the news of the country is not only, it's going to help us find out how to truly resonate with them. So what's the tone of voice? How do they approach storytelling? Is it more sensationalist? Is it more sober? And stay informed about those events is not only providing us valuable insights, but also it helps us avoid potential mistakes, as I said before. Then the second thing that we need to understand is the cultures and subcultures. So this is why I always say, and some people get quite targeted, because I always say you need to forget what you think you know about the country because you're probably wrong. Our understanding of cultures is often based on very outdated and superficial stereotypes. So if I ask you, all the people that is in the room, to think about Spain, probably 80% of people is going to think about one of these four things, right? So we've got beautiful weather, the beach, paella, siesta. I've never had a siesta in my life, by the way. Bullfighting. One of these things probably you're thinking about, but it's quite basic, right? That's not just the Spain. Now, if I show you these pictures, and please someone tell me, I know that you know that I'm tricking you, and this is probably not going to be what you think it is, but if I show you the rain, the bagpipes, beautiful landscape with like green, kind of like landscape, where do you think this is? Where, sorry? Latin America? Anyone else?
País Vasco. No, it's good.
I don't like you already. Right. Well, yes, it could be Scotland. I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that, because you were actually right. So this is Galicia. So she was right. This is Galicia. Galicia is where I'm from in Spain. It's there, just on top of Portugal. So when I tell people that we've got bagpipes, one of the questions that I get is, how did they end up there? My answer is, I have no idea about bagpipes. So I did do some little research before this talk. Turns out they didn't end up there. They've always been there. The Galician bagpipe, or the gaita, how we call it, is attested in northern Spain as early as the 9th century, 500 years before the first mention of the bagpipes in Scotland. So there you have it. They were before in Spain. But not only that, the region of Galicia in Spain is the 7th Celtic nation. So by telling you all of this, is basically, the reason I'm telling this is because when I hear people talking about Spain, I realize how many gaps in their knowledge there are. Apart from her, obviously, she did know it. Which means that probably I also know very little about other cultures. I thought people in the UK never ever use swear words, and then I moved to Yorkshire, and obviously that changed. Which means that don't stop in the surface, because you're staying that kind of like the first 4 pictures that I showed you. Spain is a collection of cultures, and so is any other country. Dig deeper. And finally, we've got understand the audience. So campaigns are to be consumed by people, and we need to find a way to talk about your brand while engaging with the audience. Not only the audience, but also the journalists. We need to find a way to distribute those campaigns and get the journalists engaged, because otherwise those campaigns are not going to be talked about. Unfortunately, people won't really care that much about your product or service. So instead of how to write a resume header with 25 examples, that's fine, but journalists are not going to write about this. However, a lot of people that is looking for a job is definitely going to be concerned about the fact that there's a massive bias in the hiring process. So therefore, if we do a campaign that highlights the fact that there's more CEOs named Carlos and Jose than women CEOs, not only people is going to be interested about that, but journalists will be interested about that as well, which is what we want. So people will get engaged with the content, but we will manage to land our content in big publications. That means that to make people relate with a message, we need to trigger some feelings. Now, when I'm talking about triggering some feelings, that's not what I mean, right? And I'm going to show you an example. How many of you have watched Money Heist? Okay, more hands up now. Okay, great, perfect, amazing, because otherwise these are all landed. So I'm going to show you 2 videos, right? I'm going to show you a video in Spanish and a video in English. The reason being is because I was watching Money Heist with my partner, and I realized there was a little reference that wasn't really that important, but there was a reference that I understood and I laughed about it, but he didn't. It went straight over his head. So I'm going to show you the video and then we are going to talk about it.
200 million euros printed each day.
2.4 billion. Now I'm going to show you the same one, but in Spanish. Or not. No. Okay, well, yeah, you imagine that, but in Spanish. Or is it this one?
200.
No, it's the same. So if you have no idea what I'm on about with this, you're proving my point. The nickname of Spain's oldest and biggest lottery is El Gordo, which means the fat one, which didn't age well. Every year at Christmas, and this is really weird when I tell people that doesn't know about this, children sing out the lottery numbers. So every single morning at Christmas, what I remember is hearing those lottery numbers being, you know, sang in the TV. And I think we've got the video, right, of this one. Yeah, I think we've had enough of that. But see what I mean now? It triggers nostalgia. When I'm watching that and I see the reference, they were doing a heist, they were getting a lot of money off that. So it was kind of like winning the lottery, which is what I make the reference of when I watch that. I felt something the other person didn't. And I understood the reference when they didn't. That means that if we are just translating, we are doing exactly that. We are just translating. Obviously, we had the two videos. You would have seen how it just genuinely, literally translates from one language to the other. But the person that is watching it in English is not understanding that reference. So we need to transcreate. And how do we transcreate? With these key takeaways, which are understand the media landscape, understand the culture and the audience, and really do your research before you start your ideation, and infuse all that into the message. Unfortunately, you can't ChatGPT your way of this. I know that a lot of people are already thinking about how can I do this with AI, but you can't. You need to rely on native speakers and local experts. And if you ever need support with international PR, you know where to find me. Thank you very much.
Demand sphere. Limitless visual insights from the SERPs. Unlimited dashboards and users. Easy to use and easy to scale your growth to new levels.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.